Hey there, it's Brad from the Digital Plan. Today we're talking about the Project Planning Grid. It's a really helpful system and tool to help you just plan better, whether it's a digital plan or any sort of strategic planning that you might be doing. Let's go ahead and jump in and take a look at it. So the Project Planning Grid itself has been inspired by Mocha and Darcy, two great project planning acronyms. I have found them very helpful in the past when working with different organizations, and I've seen a lot of folks have really great success using them. One of the big struggles I've run into, and folks I've been working with have run into a good number of times, has been just kind of remembering like what each of these letters in the acronym means, and that's how we came up with a project planning grid. We're going to put things in more kind of plain language to help you kind of think through who is managing each piece of a plan and a plan altogether, and we'll dig into all this all together. But just real quick to think of this, your decision maker is the person who's making a decision, yes or no, on the project and how it all kind of rolls out. Project manager, person doing the work throughout, or managing the work throughout, making sure that all happens really well. Responsible for work, they are definitely doing the work throughout. Now, what often happens is sometimes, smaller organizations, project manager responsible for work may overlap. This person may appear here and here, and sometimes even the decision maker is also the project manager. And then feedback, who needs to weigh in? Folks who kind of need to kind of give you some feedback. Now, we're going to dig into each of these a lot deeper through this quick little training, but it's going to give you kind of a top level view so you could at least see this and understand what it is we're talking about. And then informed and stakeholders, when we're thinking about this, especially in digital context, this is almost always your audience is included here, right? This could be other people, could be your board, could be funders, people who need to know about the work that you're doing in the world. But at the very least, this is definitely your audience in a digital capacity, right? And so, we're going to dig through, help you figure out how you kind of fill these out, talk about kind of the differences and nuances in them a little bit. And then, if you're a member and you like our digital project planning blueprints, you'll find these reoccurring throughout there, whether you're talking about a big level digital blueprint, web development or video, whatever it is you're looking for. We're always talking about the project planning grid to make your strategy better.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump in here and dig in a little bit deeper. So decision maker is the first role we're going to talk about, makes final sign off about the project or plan. And ideally, this is one person or a distinct decision-making body, so that way you know who it is that is definitely making the sign off about the overall project or the sub-element of the project. So who has a final decision on budget, resources, and can essentially stop the project, right? Or kind of greenlight the project altogether. Distinct decision-making body, right? So sometimes this is like an executive director, a leadership team, a campaign manager, a communications team leader, or whoever may be the leader for a team or a budget, the person who has the kind of decision-making power. All right, the project manager. This is the person who really makes it all happen. The person who manages all of the work and communication. Anyone who's worked with a professional project manager knows what a godsend they are. So this is the person who makes sure that all the trains are running on time. We think about this should always be just one person. So once in a while, the decision maker, can be a body of people. Project manager should really be a specific person for the project. Now, your project may have subsections and project managers for their subsections. That's totally fine. It can be okay for the decision maker and this person to be the same. There are definitely times this has happened. There have been times when I've been in a management role where I am both a person who oversees the project budget, and I'm also going to sit in the role of project manager because it doesn't make sense to put that responsibility on someone else. Separate sections of project may have separate people in this role. Kind of just alluded to that, but a way to think about that, and in our our big templates, often we're thinking about a complete digital project. You may have one person who's the project manager for the whole project. What that means is then they're actually checking in with the other project managers, right? So you may have one person managing the email flow, another person managing the graphic design, another person managing the web development as a project manager. And so the macro top level project manager is checking in with all of these people. That becomes their job. And sometimes they are also in some of those roles as well. But project manager, they're the person who keeps it all on track. Responsible for work. So here we're listing everyone or teams that are doing the project. If you've got a team of folks who are, creating content, they're going to show up here. Let's just jump in a little bit deeper. So responsible for work, you want to list out everyone and make sure they know they are listed. So I think I've seen happen in a few projects over my years is even when using a great project planning grid like this, that someone is responsible for work and no one told them, or no one told them until it was the due date. And that doesn't work. One of the things I love about building plans like this in Google Docs is they have that great tagging feature and at least sends an alert to their updates. I actually think you should email or text or Slack, however your organization is using it. It's also okay to list teams of people, right? Especially if you're at the top level of a project in the planning grid, you may say communications team, design team, your community outreach team, whatever team you may have, or could also list a team of your outside contractors. Could say, our communications contractors, could say our web development firm. You want to make clear the rules where possible and if necessary. And so a really good example here I like to distinguish is, let's say we're doing some blog or some content updates on our website, and responsible for work, I could put a couple of names there, but they may not know exactly what their role is, right? And so I should actually say who's writing the content and possibly who's loading the content. Another distinction I like to make, let's say you have a graphic design section. Often the person who is creating the copy for the graphic design is different from the graphic designer. And you should make that distinct, right? So person who is requesting and writing the copy for, and you list their name, and then you'd say graphic designer and name, right? So you're really making it distinct who is sitting in these roles where we can, so that way we don't have any confusion over that. Feedback. So this is a really interesting one, and this is one I think a lot of folks forget to actually put in their planning process, and that's the whole idea behind this planning grid is really to create essentially a checklist of the people who are responsible or need to weigh in or be informed, like we're talking about here. So who needs to weigh in on the plan or work? And so these are not the decision maker, but they may deeply inform you of what's happening here, right? So departments who aren't doing the work but need to weigh in. So a good way to think about that is, a lot of folks who work in digital, often there's a communications team who doesn't sit directly in digital, but often they're weighing in on the messaging, on the content. And so they would be giving you the feedback, right? If they're not drafting any of the content, they're not responsible for that, they're weighing in. Or, you may be developing a project together, with someone who is running some sort of outreach program, right? Could be service outreach, could be recruiting volunteers, could be any number of kinds of outreach. But they aren't building the website, they're not doing the graphic design, but you actually need their feedback to make sure that you are working together towards this bigger external goal. Also, outside support who might be helping with strategy, right? So if you have consultants or coaches helping mentor you on strategy, you should list them here. And then board leadership or other leaders, I think an important place here. Whatever makes sense in your organizational operational flow, these are the folks that should be giving the feedback. And so this is a little different than informed. So who needs to know this work happened or is happening? So these are informed, our stakeholders. And so how I like to think about these folks are, the folks who need to let know what's going on. So stakeholders could be stakeholders like leadership, boards, funders, or partners. And so what I mean, right, you've run a great project, you did a thing. So it doesn't mean you have to let them know through every stage of the work. This just means that, when the work happens, that you're like, oh yeah, this should be in our board report, or we should definitely let the funders know that this happened. This grid is a checklist, and it's a way to make sure that you plan and operationalize all of your work a whole lot better, right? You take a minute or two, you do it now, it saves you some headache and hassle later. Also, the target audience for the project or piece of the project. So, we talk about target audiences a lot. Digital strategy, online communications is all about audiences and all about who you intend to reach. And so I think it's just super valuable to make sure you put in here who the target audience is. And sometimes it's super simple, right? It is a subset of your email list. It is your SMS list. And other times it is you've done the deep work and you're building a new audience, or you're really thinking about a subset of your organizational audience, and you really want to make sure that those distinct folks get the information. So that brings us to where we often use this. So we talk a lot about our project planning blueprints. We have our one kind of master level project planning blueprint, and we'll be doing more series on project planning blueprints for, video, fundraising, different kinds of campaigns. These planning templates are part of our online membership, and you can definitely check them out. You get unlimited access to it, and you can use it in all of your projects. And we're also updating them. So over time, as new tools and tactics evolve, we actually add it in our trainings. We kind of update the training every couple of months, and so we want to really make sure that the project planning grid isn't just a thing that exists in the abstract, but is a super powerful tool when you're using it with the engagement cycle and you're bringing it all together in a consistent plan. If you like this video, please consider clicking the subscribe to us on YouTube button below. That way you will get more of these videos from us. And if you really loved it, please consider becoming a member of our online training community. You can check it out at thedigitalplan.com/community.